Hi everybody, I hope that you're all well. So, just a little bit of explanation this morning, should I say. It's Sunday morning and I'm being quite quiet because it is so hot. We are going through a heat wave at the moment in UK, and yesterday it hit about 29 or 30 degrees here. It's been like that since I think Friday, and it looks like it's going to carry on until possibly the middle of next week. And yeah, it's going to hit 31 today, so it's going to be like around 29, 30 for a few days, and then it's going to temper away, which I'm very much looking forward to, because I am not a summer person. I love autumn and winter. I am that girl. So summer just makes me hot and uncomfortable, and so I have woken up because the heat, and I'm just not feeling comfortable whatsoever. I woke up about half hour ago, which was 5 o'clock in the morning, and I've just taken time just to breathe a bit, and I've got the windows wide open to let in the morning cool air, and I'm like, if I don't film this now, I am probably not going to film it today, because it's going to get hot very quickly, and then I'm just going to be all frustrated and everything. So it's bed hair and bags under the eyes this morning, but I don't care, because I'm actually feeling a bit cool at the moment with all the windows wide open. So thus I'm filming this. It's been a busy week for me with work, as always. I was very glad when yesterday happened, Saturday happened, and of course last weekend, since I filmed my last video, we lost in the Euros, which is sad. But as I said, I'm not a football person, so I wasn't watching the match or anything like that. But it's sad that we lost. Well done. To everyone who played, well done to Italy for winning. Italy are a really good football team, and we haven't gotten this far in football, in a major tournament thing, in what, 55 years or something like that. My brain is still asleep a bit, so I've probably got that wrong. But the guys on the team did our country proud, and so well done. And yeah, I suppose it gives hope for the future and everything. Wimbledon is finally finished, so I'm glad that the heaviness of sport on TV has relaxed away for a while. But I know we've got the Olympics coming up, but I don't mind the Olympics, because the Olympics have got so much stuff on. I don't mind that. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. But anyway, enough about the heat and sport. I'm here to talk about the book I've been reading this week, which is Redeeming the Reclusive Earl by Virginia Heath. So in case you didn't see my announcement video, a little bit of a backstory. My sister and I watched Bridgerton when it was released back in December, and we absolutely loved it. And my sister started looking at romance books. I can't remember if she started doing this before Bridgerton or it was just after, but she started looking at romance novels and such, and came across in charity shop Mills and Boon's book. Mills and Boon's are very much known for publishing romance books, generally period ones, but it's just romance novels by a variety of authors who don't usually publish under any other publishing house, like picked up like Little Brown Books, or Penguin, that kind of thing. So they're kind of, in a way, although they're not, automatically you think, ooh, bad, but in a way they're kind of stereotyped as being romance books that aren't that great, or only targeted for a certain age group, certain gender, that kind of thing. But yeah, so romance novels are not books that I generally read, and I'm not snobbish. It's a section of literature fiction that just doesn't interest me, so I don't go there. It's like erotic fiction. I'm like, no. I'd rather read something that's got a wide variety of stuff going on than just focus on one thing, kind of. But I must like romance books because, I like Jane Austen, I like Sophie Kinsella, who's a chick lit writer, Celia Ahern, and I did listen after watching the first series of Bridgerton. I did listen to sorry, all of the Bridgerton books through Audible, and I've really liked them. So I'm not adverse to the genre. It's a genre that I just don't tend to read. So my sister got into Mills and Boons books via charity shops, and she absolutely loved them. And she was like, "You really need to read one of these." And I was like, okay. Well, my birthday's coming up. Why didn't you get me one for my birthday? And so she did, and she went for this one. So this is actually she's clarify this because I was unsure when I did my announcement video. This is the second Mills and Boons book that she ever read, but it's like one of her absolute favourites. And Virginia Heath, my sister has actually now bought all of Virginia Heath's books because she loves her. You think she's a really, really good author, and she's an author who, like, if she were to bring out her next book, is an automatic purchase. Regardless, it's an automatic purchase, kind of like how I am with JK. And I trust my sister, and if she says this is good, then I'm going to trust that it is good. So she got it for me for my birthday, and that's how I came to have it. So I went into this completely blind. I didn't know what to expect because I've never read a Mills and Boons book before, and so I was just like, right, let's delve in. I will admit, Monday was my first time trying this, and I had some issues, and I was quizzing my sister and our friend Sarah, because Sarah's read this book as well. I was like, okay, when is this set? Because it's never declared. Oh, I thought there'd be like a bit of an introduction before we go straight into the story, but that is like, why is that happening? Well, I was a bit startled. And then they got back to me and said, right, okay, generally, just so you know, because you haven't read any Mills and Boons book, you don't get told the date that the story is set, but there are vague references because of like a particular character to historical events, so you know about when it's set. So I was like, okay. And the second thing was to do with not having like an introduction, and they clarified that generally in Mills and Boons books, the two main characters who are going to fall in love and everything will meet in the first chapter, either right at the very beginning, like on page 1, as what happened in this book, or right near the end of the first chapter, and then it will go in. So I was like, okay. And they because I was really het up on wanting to know the year in which it was set. And Sarah gave me some advice, and she was just like, switch that off in your mind and go with the flow. That's kind of like what these books are. It's a gentle story, and it's kind of like, in a way, Game of Thrones is what she referred to. Is it set in the past? Is it set in the future? You don't know, but you just kind of go with it. And so I was like, oh, right, okay, yeah, I see what you mean with Game of Thrones. And when I had that kind of fantasy hat on, because I love fantasy books, because I stopped reading that night after like the first chapter, because I was really tired after work. I was like, right, I'm going to start again with this book on Tuesday, and I'm going to have that mindset, because that makes logical sense to me as somebody who likes reading fantasy. And then it worked. I was like, right, I can read this now. And I started reading, and I really enjoyed it. So, key piece of advice, if you want to read a Mills and Boon book, you give one a go, is like what Sarah said. Think of it as kind of a fantasy world. You don't know if it's exactly what it is, but you just go with it. And yeah, you don't know you might be a bit startled by the pace of it, but it's only like 300 pages long. It's not a long book, but there's a lot of stuff that happens in it. So you just kind of have to go with that you're going to be whammed straight into the action of the book, rather than be eased in that way. I've just realised it is 10 minutes in and I have yet to explain what this book is about. I am so sorry. You can tell it's like 5:30 in the morning, can't you, when I'm doing this? So this book is about Max, who is an earl. He's just become earl of a property called Rivenhall, which previously had been owned by his uncle, who's passed away, and so he has inherited it, and his earldom. And he had 18 months previously had a very bad injury in the Napoleonic Wars, and he's just shut himself off from the world. He wants to be completely left alone. He doesn't want to be anywhere near society, and yes, he's like, okay, this is a new start, as it were. And on arriving at Rivenhall, like right after he's got his earldom, he finds what he thinks is a boy digging up his garden, basically digging up his land, and it turns out it's not a boy, it's a young woman called Effie, who is his neighbour, and she's an archaeologist, and she had an agreement with his uncle that she could dig up the lands, section of the land at Rivenhall, in order to look at the historic elements of the area of the land, and write a paper on it. But now he's Earl, and he goes, nope, not letting you do that. And it's all about their relationship developing, what they learn from each other, and of course they fall in love. And so yeah, that's kind of the overriding arc of the story of Redeeming the Reclusive Earl. So not only was this my first Mills and Boons book, it was also my first Virginia Heath book. I had never heard of her before. My sister had started reading all of her books. Because I'd not read anything, I didn't know what to expect. And so yeah, but I trust my sister. If she says I think you're gonna enjoy this, I trust her. She knows what I like to read and everything, and I know what she likes to read. So I went, okay, I will give this a go. And I really did enjoy it. I was really impressed by Virginia's writing. Obviously, because this is only my very first experience of Mills and Boons, I don't know if the fluidity of the writing and such is matched in other novels by other authors, or the pacing and such. But I really was impressed by how well paced, how sensual the writing was. The fluidity of it was really good. She can really write some dark stuff very well, in regards to that she writes about the dark without going too dark, which kind of, with the Mills and Boons book, it kind of feels like it needs to be a little fluffy, not so fluffy that it's like, oh my god, this is so sickly sweet, I can't read this, but Max and his military experience and his accident is really hard. He went through some really tough shit, let's put it that way, and it was some real shit that he went through. And this chapter where he tells his story is really beautifully written, because it's full of pain, and it's full of toil, and it's full of heartbreak, and at the same time it has this lightness to it, because it kind of feels like, because it's happening sort of in the evening and everything, it kind of feels like waiting for the sun to rise. You have that real darkness before the sun begins to rise, and it feels like by the end of the chapter the sun has risen, and you can feel in himself he's let this weight off of him. And to feel that as you're reading it that takes some talent. That really does take some talent. So I can't I can't find a negative about her writing. And for me, because I'm one of those readers, because I like bigger explanations and such, I would have liked more like an introduction just to explain kind of the whereabouts, the time. But that's just me being picky. And as I said, this is my first experience of Mildred Boone. I gather because of what I was told that is standard. So she is following the standard of the publishers who publish these books. So yeah, so just because I wanted that introduction, that's not a negative on her if that's the standard for that publishing house. So I can't fault her, if you see what I mean. That's just me, because it's what you'd expect kind of from an author in any other publishing house of a fictional story to do. But if that's what they do, that's what they do. So well done, Virginia. I really did love the story, and to be honest, after 2 dark books about real life murders, to have something that was lighter really helped. And yeah, it made me smile. It made me smile, and the fact that I'm going back into darkness with a piece of fictional book this time, because the last 2 were non-fiction. Again, it really helped kind of cleanse the palate of what I needed. I loved the characters. I think Effie especially is a gem, and she describes herself as having a mind that can't stop. It's constantly asking questions and such, and she's so bold and daring, and yet she understands society rules and everything, and she wants to break barriers, but she's not sure exactly how. And there's something I get about Effie and the way her mind works that I can kind of connect to, because sometimes I feel like my brain is, I'm constantly thinking up questions and such, because that's the kind of person I am. That Virginia Heath, my sister, was saying, looked on her website, Virginia Heath has explained how Effie, probably nowadays, she might possibly be diagnosed as possibly having Asperger's or something, from the way that she thought of her. And I never once thought of Effie possibly having Asperger's or something. It was just the way that her mind worked. And so to have a character who possibly has a disability in a period piece like this is really good. I like the fact that Virginia did it so subtly. She didn't make it a stereotypical thing and over exaggerate it. It was just, that's the way that Effie's mind works. And she says, it kind of helps her with her archaeology and asking questions of what is this about, where are we, what is going on, what could this thing that I've just dug up possibly be. It's one of her characteristics which is just so wonderful. So to have that done in such a subtle way, I can only applaud Virginia for doing. And the 2 of them together, Effie and Max, they just fit. There's just something about them that just fits, and the way in which the various events happen, and the way that their relationship develops over a couple of months is really, really lovely. And how sometimes, like, especially in like romance films, stuff like that, I have to refer to films because, as I said, I don't really read romance novels. There's always a certain set events that happen, a couple of them did happen or maybe more than a couple, in this book, but at the same time I felt it was very original. Like, you have a misunderstanding, you have an argument, you have some time apart, that kind of thing. That happened, because, you know, stuff like that happens in life. But the build up to get there, and also afterwards, if you've read this book, you know what I mean. Doesn't meet convention, but it makes sense for the story, and it makes sense for them as characters. So the characters are very much leading the sequences of events, not she is slotting the characters in to make a already used structure, recycled structure work. If you see what I mean. The characters are leading the way, is what I'm trying to say. If that didn't, wasn't clear. But it is still early in the morning, so my brain isn't quite there yet. So yes, I have to say, for a book that I didn't know anything about, I didn't know the author, I had no idea what I was going into, I had never read from that publishing house, but my sister said, trust me, go with it, you're going to like it. I liked it. I have to say, I really did like it. So I'm already 21 minutes in, so I'm not going to do a reading because I'm trying to make my review shorter, because I feel like these go on a bit. I ramble a bit, but I can't help it. Yeah, I think this one's gone on long enough. But I have to say I am impressed. So, questions. Would I read this again? Yeah, I think I'm going to hang on to this for a while and reread it, because I was impressed. Would I read any more of Virginia Heath's work? Yeah, I think I'd give it a go. I think, though, I would like to maybe read some more Mills and Boons books, just to get used to the formula and get examples of other authors so that I can compare to, which I think's fair, because as I said, this is the publishing house that I've never read before this. So if I just read Virginia Heath books, I'm sure that's not a bad thing, but perspective of other authors I think is always a good idea. So I'd like to read other authors. It's like if I read only J.K. Rowling books from Bloomsbury, no other author, and then I'm like, J.K. is the queen of Bloomsbury, but is she? There are other authors who get published in Bloomsbury. If I don't experience that, how can I judge that? So I'd like to read some other Mills and Boons books, I think, before I look at some more Virginia Heath, which I think is fair. Would I recommend this to anyone? Yeah, I would. I really would. But I would flag about, like what Sarah said, that, you have to kind of switch your mind off of various questions and go with it, and you will get answers along the way. It's just the way it is. And yeah, so those are my thoughts on Redeeming the Reclusive Earl by Virginia Heath. So, have you read this book? I'd love to know what you think. If you leave a comment in the comments box below, or give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, entirely up to you, let you decide. And I'll be back with my thoughts on my next read, which I've already announced, which is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. So this is a debut novel which caused quite a stir, and I know that it's quite dark, so thus having Mills and Boons to read this week has been really good to cleanse the palate. And yeah, so I'll be back with my thoughts with My Dark Vanessa as soon as I am done, and hopefully this cool air is going to remain in this room for quite a bit of a while. Literally, when I woke up this morning in my living room where I'm sat right now, it was 25.5 degrees. It is now 1 minute to 6, and it is 22.5 because I've got all the windows open wide. So it's feeling incredibly cooler now. Hopefully it will stay that way. Probably won't last long, but I'm being optimistic. So yeah, hopefully it'll be much cooler the next time you see me. All right then, guys. Bye.